One of the worst mistakes that I've ever seen people make is they come to the UK, they do their job, their university degree or master's degree or whatever it is, and then when they finish, they then say, oh, now I'm ready, now I'm going to start applying. No, baby, it's never too early to start applying for a job. Apply as early as possible. And this isn't something that you do when you finish your university course. It's not something that you do halfway through. From the moment you come down from that plane, as the plane hits the ground, you also hit the ground, okay? Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kacha, as always. This is part 3. I don't know why I did that with my hair, but 3-part series of me talking about my UK visas, passports, immigration, all that kind of stuff, and how I went from being a 16-year-old in Nigeria applying for a student visa and now being 28 in the UK with a British passport. It's a really long time, but okay, we got there. We got there. But at 16, I remember walking into our placement officer. Her name is Angela Waldorf, I can never forget. Looking her in the face and I went, I'm 16 years old. By the time I graduate, I'm going to be 19, going on 20. So I'm still very young and I'm going to still be very young in a few years' time. I am a woman and I know that I'm an engineer. I'm going to be an engineer. And hello, gender discrimination. I am black. Hello, racial discrimination. And I am young. Did I already say that? So everything that sort of embodies the stereotype of what it means to maybe not, be the most experienced person, the smartest person in the room. I'm an immigrant, right? I don't have a passport. I had all of these things, I feel like, backed up against me, essentially. I was like, I'm 16, but I know something in my mind just kept telling me that I know I need to start now so that I can actually get to a point where if paper to paper, CV to CV, they're looking at my name and they're looking at another person's name who fits that description, I want to be able to stand out just as much as the other person does. I don't know if that makes sense. So I just want to say that I thank God for that wisdom, because nobody else could have given that to me. Nobody else gave me that advice. Nobody told me what to do. There was no YouTube videos talking about this stuff. There was nothing. I just literally knew that work experience is so important, and I cannot afford to be 16 years old or 19 years old as a woman, as an immigrant, as a black girl, walking around trying to find a job without any experience. Like, who's going to take me seriously? So maybe people would have been kind enough to, but I didn't want to take my chances. I was like, and this is my general motto in life, is I want to do my best, right? And I worked so hard as well at university to do my best, because I wanted to prove, almost like to myself and to everybody else, that if I can do this and still not get a job, that's not on me. That has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with me. And that was my game plan. I know that you've saved up so much money to come to the UK. It's gone into the tens of thousands of pounds. I know that things are difficult and you have so many different bills to pay. But if you've spent all that money to get here, you can't afford to not get it right. So you need to carve out time to think about the strategy of why are you in this country in the first place? Why did you spend your money? And you might be watching this video and your parents did it for you, your husband did it for you, your wife did it for you. You didn't have to think about coming here. You just sort of showed up. I love that for you. God bless you. I was not one of those people. At 16, more like 17 actually, I was fending for my accommodation and my feeding money. It was very hard, like really making ends meet. I was studying engineering. I just want to say that as well. I was doing chemical engineering at the University of Teesside. I was working really, really hard. Like, my course was really difficult. Our lecturer went off of stress. The lecturer. So imagine how the students were feeling. So like, it was very like high stakes. It was very, very difficult. I didn't do A-levels. I talked about that in part 2 of this series. I didn't do A-levels. So I had to do a foundation to get up to scratch. And a lot of people already knew all the maths, all the chemistry, all the things. And I felt like people, especially in my first year, were much smarter than me. Everybody knew things. And I was really struggling. I used to cry before my chemistry test. I used to cry. Like, I was just like, there was so much, so like the pressure, the pressure was here. Like, the pressure was really, really high. So I understand that. And then you then have that on top of like either paying for your school fees or like the accommodation costs, the bills, and then still trying to be a human being in whatever situation is going on in your life. I know it's difficult, but I just want to say that if you spend the time, the effort, as I said, this is for people who actually have spent time and effort to come here, you can't afford to not have a strategy. So as I said, at 16, I walked into this woman's office because I was like, I want to have work experience. So my thing was never getting, a passport. I was just like, I don't like this country. Like, no offense. I don't care. I don't want to be here. And I was just like, I don't know. And the way that I even ended up in the UK was such a funny story anyway. I have a video up about that. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but I didn't care. I was such a hater of the UK. And if you ask me every single time, I always had something negative to say about the UK, which is so funny now. But I didn't care about the passport. I just know that I wanted to finish my degree and finish it really well. And I also wanted that when I go back to Nigeria, I wanted to have had experience in the UK. So that's why I said strategy is really, really important. You have to ask yourself the question of, first of all, why am I in this country? What is your end goal? My end goal was work experience, right? And to have a job, an engineering job that would hold for 2 years. What is your end goal? So because my end goal was having that sponsored job, that meant that I needed to apply for jobs that would sponsor me to live in the UK. Forget about everything else for me. That was my main priority. So you have to be able to honestly answer that question and ask yourself that question and answer that question. Once you do that, everything then starts to become apparent from day one. And this isn't something that you do when you finished your university course. It's not something that you do halfway through. From the moment you come down from that plane, as the plane hits the ground, you also hit the ground, okay? You also need to sleep, eat your food, whatever you can find. But as soon as possible, within the first few months, like, you need to know, why are you here? What do you want to do in the UK? And start to work towards it. Because you have a visa, right? So because you have a visa, you don't have the luxury of time. I find a lot of people make this mistake of they wait until the end and I start thinking, oh, I'm like, when you had the visa that you didn't have to have all that pressure, that's the time that you want to be using to apply, to plan, to think, to strategize. And when you come in as well, in the first few months, you start to see things. You start to have experiences that you probably didn't have in your home country, wherever you were, regardless of whatever that country is, right? And it doesn't matter if you're, moving from Germany or whether you're moving from Spain or Australia. But regardless of the country that you're moving in from, there's going to be differences. There are going to be opportunities or things that maybe you can't quite do in your home country or that you didn't think about. So definitely make sure that you expand your mind as soon as you're coming in, and as quick as possible, whatever that feels like to you, get on it, get a strategy, understand why you're here, what do you want to do at the end of this journey, at least have a plan. Who knows, you might get married to a British guy and then you have his passport anyway after 5 years, and it doesn't matter, but at least have a plan, okay? I'm pretending you're a woman, but you might be a man also marrying a British man, it's 2025. Okay, so that's the first thing that I had, is have a strategy. The second thing that I also want to say is know the experience that is required for you. So, and this is where time is also quite important, because your degree might be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? Whatever the case might be a PhD, might be a little bit longer, who knows? But whatever it is that your end goal is, it might be that maybe you want to be a painter, or you want to be this digital artist. I don't know what people are doing these days, right? It might not be something, like engineering, right? But whatever the field that it is that you want to get into, have a look at who that person is that you do, that job that you want to apply in 3, 4, 5 years time. What does that person in that job need, and what is important? But the one thing that I can tell you for free is that regardless of where or what that job is, you need experience, right? Somebody might be kind enough and just say, oh, I saw the sparkle in his eyes and I just saw this guy must be a fast learner, so I'm gonna give him a job with that experience. But the reality is they might not, okay? So you need experience, so that's why you need to understand what is the experience that you need to get to the job that you want. I say this very, very important because I'm gonna tell you a story. So, as I said, for me, I realized very quickly that I need experience. So what did I do? At 16-year-old, I walked into that woman's office. I asked her that I need experience, and I started volunteering. I volunteered as a STEM ambassador because I realized that in the UK, people prioritize experience, right? But I started realizing that a lot of companies care about social sustainability, right? They care that you care. So I then became a STEM ambassador, which is essentially somebody who goes around to different schools being an ambassador for STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and maths. So I went to secondary schools just talking about my experience of being an engineer, like doing engineering, and like just getting kids like enthusiastic and excited about science and engineering. So that was the job that I was asking that woman for at 16 years old, right? So I was just like, okay, if I can get this job, right, talking about this stuff, that means I don't have the experience, but you can already see how that leans into the whole concept of engineering. Like, I'm going to be applying for engineering companies and having that social responsibility, which a lot of companies have. Every company on there, they have something that we care, and this is what we are doing in the community. There's always something there. So that was the gap that bridged for me without any experience. The only thing I'd done at 16 at that point was ushering jobs in Nigeria that almost wanted to finish my heels. So that's step one. Step two was then I started applying for, was that I then had the option of, okay, I needed a job, right? For a year, I was too young. I was 16, and 16 going on 17, I think. Yeah, and then when I started my first year, I was still 17, and then no job like would really take me seriously. So the best thing that I could have was babysitting. I used to babysit for this woman who really never paid me on time, even though she was quite well off, but never mind. So I babysat, but when it came to time that I was like, okay, I've been doing the STEM, I've been working, I've been doing the STEM, I've been doing my job, I've been doing babysitting, which has nothing to do with what I want to do. So I need to get that out, right? I need to get to something that I can put on my CV and be proud of, okay? And it ends up being something that a lot of people were really surprised that I did. I had the option of doing a care job, support worker, which is quite common in the UK and is what a lot of people do. But I, for my own career, decided to go with working in a factory. Now, that sounds like, what the hell are you on about? Because it's still a factory. But if you see my CV, and what I wrote about this factory, because at the end of the day, if you're working in a refinery, you're working on a chemical plant, you're working on a site, they are operators. So it doesn't matter if you're in food. And one of the fantastic things about chemical engineering anyway for me was that I could work anywhere. I could work in a food manufacturing process, oil, automotive, etc., etc. So I could work in a lot of different places. So I was like, regardless, at the heart of manufacturing, which was where I was gearing towards anyway, are operators. So I might not have been the engineer in where I was working, and I'm just a low-level staff, but I wrote that up in my CV to say I was on, I was doing investigations when there were when things were sort of like went out of control. I was doing investigations. I was talking to the plant technicians to be able to understand basically when things went wrong or when there was like a plant breakdown. I was doing plant maintenance of not necessarily equipment, but of just our process, just adhering to process standard operating procedures are things that they talk about all the time on our course. So because I already knew what was relevant experience, I didn't make the mistake of going for a care job, which wouldn't really have much to sell in comparison to working in a factory. So it's quite important that once you've developed your strategy, that you think of any job that you're doing with around that strategy, because I guarantee you in the UK a lot of the times there will be jobs that you can, like part-time jobs or student jobs that you can do, that you can pick those things from. So when you're picking out those student jobs, those part-time jobs that you're doing, just make sure that is in line with the career that you are choosing. Now I say this to say it's not because it's very easy, it's just because you just still have to be intentional about it, because at the end of the day I still had the option of, do I want to do a care job or do I want to do a factory job, which are both shitty jobs in my opinion. But out of those two, one of them was good enough for me to put on my CV, and I wrote it really, really well on my CV. And that combination of the factory job and the work experience was what I believe got me my placement. So we're gonna get into placements in a little bit, because I did an engineering degree, but regardless of whatever degree that you do, it's important to know that people in the UK, there's almost like, again, another social responsibility with, around work experience. So a lot of companies are happy to pay, small amounts of money, which was really good for me, enough for me at the time. It was like 14,000, 13,000 a year to have work experience. So even after my first year, I was already applying for one work experience. I was so sad because I didn't get it. But after my second year, I was like, well, there's a chance that I might get a year-long one, so a full year, which is what I was really gunning for, but there's a chance that I might not. So I started applying for the summer ones, which are smaller, and I don't believe that there's as much competition for those, in my opinion. So I started applying for both, because I was just like, anyone that clicks, basically. So that's one thing I want to say, is that don't put your eggs in one basket when it comes to applying for jobs. Throw that net wide. I know that you develop a strategy. I know that you start sort of like have an understanding of the things that you want to do, but trust me, there's going to be so many things, so many different things, so many different jobs, so many different job titles around that strategy that you have, and you don't have to be so fixated on getting that one particular job or job title that you want. So I did the work placement for the summer placement, and then I was lucky enough that I also got a year one in the end. So I ended up doing 2 placements, which at the time was pretty unheard of on my course, because a lot of people were just doing one, right? They either had one or the other, but I was fortunate enough that I had both. So that work experience, key. If you need to do volunteering, do volunteering. It's not going to kill you. If you need to get a placement, literally reach out to companies. A lot of companies have said, have that social responsibility. If you're able to show that, oh, I have that, I'll be really grateful if I can do an internship at your company for 6 weeks, right? 7 weeks. It doesn't really matter. And I have another friend who's Brazilian, actually, who did this, and she works for a company for 6 weeks. And when she talked about it in Brazil, it got her a job. So experience is experience. Don't be shy to even ask your universities. Universities have a lot of like I had Angela Waldorf, who was fantastic, but they have a lot of student relationship people who do all this kind of stuff. So reach out to them, ask them if they have any. Even the university itself, might have opportunities. I work for my university, I want to say at least once or twice, right? So reach out to them and make use of those different resources that you have to make sure that you have that experience, okay? So know the required experience that you need. And then I'm going to say, know the cycles of what you need. So with my course, because again, I was doing bachelors, a lot of people now that I know are coming to UK to do masters, but I was here for a bachelor's degree. So there are cycles, and the wrong time to be applying for a job is when you just finished your degree. For me, for example, the cycle of job application usually starts from September. So September up until Christmas, the job applications are ongoing. They're selecting candidates. When we come into January, February time, you're going for interviews. And by, March, it's March now, but March, April time, you're starting to get job offers, getting ready essentially to start in September. So there was an annual cycle associated with the jobs that I was applying for. So when it comes to applying for jobs, you need to make sure that you know those cycles. One of the worst mistakes that I've ever seen people make is they come to the UK, they do their job, their university degree or master's degree or whatever it is, and then when they finish, they then say, oh, now I'm ready, now I'm going to start applying. No, baby, it's never too early to start applying for a job. Apply as early as possible, and make sure that you are aware. Because if I didn't start in September, I probably would have missed the cycle of the graduate sort of application process. And then by the time I was ready in May, when I was finally done with my degree and all the stress, it would have been too late. So you just need to make sure that you apply, and know the cycle that you need to be in with regards to that job application. Even for I'm a full-time employee now, and I'm at a senior level. I think I'm a senior level in my role. My last job had senior attached to it, so I'm a sort of like mid-senior level, I would say. And there are still cycles, right? You can't randomly start applying for jobs in the middle of Christmas. There are cycles. There's financial cycle as well in the UK. Financial year starts in April. What does that mean for you? So just be aware and have that in the back of your mind. Otherwise, you could stay 2, 3, 4 months out of a job. And then the reason why that's critical for people who this video is made for is because you are on a strict time already, because you have a visa that is running out, okay? So I'm also going to say, make job hunting your side hustle. As I said in the beginning, I know that it is difficult, and I'm not saying this because it's super easy. I used to finish my shifts. I used to work in the library at some point in university. I would finish my shift from the library, and then after my shift finished in the library, thankfully my library had become 24 hours, I would go into the same library and start applying for jobs while I was doing my final year dissertation. And again, no offense, I did an engineering degree. It was really, 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 really difficult. And a lot of my friends as well were British citizens, and a lot of times I feel like they probably hated me because I was just like, oh, I don't have a passport, I need a visa, nobody's gonna hire me. So I was aware of my condition, right? And you need to be aware of it in the same way, and make job job hunting your side hustle. But again, it's not just throwing in. Now these days, I feel like there's LinkedIn Easy Apply, and people just kind of throw their CVs in the ring without really paying attention to it. Every job application that I was doing, I was very intentional about it. I had my CV set up in a way that I will put in the name of the company in my covering letter. I'll put in the name of the company or specific things in my CV to tailor it towards the company, so it's kind of like specially made for them. So I used to spend time on my applications, and it has to be your second job. I know you have your university, your work already, but that applying for jobs needs to be up there as well. So a lot of people are not applying for jobs enough, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, you're not going to be getting offers flying around. It's literally a numbers game. So you're going to get a lot of rejections. That's normal, and that's okay. But you need to keep pressing on and keep applying, right? And that's really, really important. I talked about this earlier a little bit, but you just need to make sure that you use the resources that are available to you. A lot of people are coming into the UK, and most likely universities. Universities are fantastic for the amount of resources that they provide. CV resources, career resources. Go and talk to those people. Right? A lot of Nigerians, especially, I find, they tend to be in like this Nigerian bubble, and then they only speak to Nigerians, and all the Nigerians that they know are telling them about this kid. Like, you need to expand your circle and like go and speak to people, go and speak to resources. It's free. You're paying thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds for this university. Put them to work. Let them make your money work for you, okay? I used to do CV. I was one of those oversabi, like busybodies, who used to go to career workshops and CV workshops at the university. Till today, if I am applying for a job, I don't assume that I know everything. My CV is great. I love it. I think it's fantastic. But I still don't think it's perfect. When I started applying for a job a couple of years ago now, I literally went to a manager in my office, and I was like, this is my CV. Can you help me have a look at it relative to the job that I applied for? And she had so many fantastic points that she mentioned. And after that, it's really, really helped me. So people get into this really weird mindset around applying for jobs and start to take things very personally, but it's literally a numbers game. So make sure that you're using all the resources that you have available to you. Use them. They're there in the university. These days, ChatGPT, obviously I didn't have ChatGPT, but ChatGPT is really, really fantastic. So don't just put in your CV to ChatGPT and tell it to give you a new version. Tell ChatGPT what you do for work. Tell it, oh, hey, this is what the kind of tasks that I have. This is the kind of projects that I have. Don't just, I don't know if you get what I mean. Make this, to be like this type of job description, and like, finesse that as much as possible. And I don't want to overemphasize on like CV writing and ChatGPT and job applications, but I am the queen of making a mountain out of a molehill. Because a lot of times I found that I used to be really, really shy, and I never wanted to I felt like, I was really like, is it me? Like, I'm doing too much. Do too much. Okay? Do too much. If you did, you had to go and speak to this person in this department and speak to that person in this other department, you are liaising with stakeholders, right? So you need to learn how to use the lingo, the language, and ChatGPT is really, really fantastic. It's great that we have that tool, because I didn't have that. So you need to get out of your head. It's not personal, and the rejections that you're going to get are not personal. It's not really about you at the end of the day, right? And just use the resources that you have to make sure that your CV is top notch, right? And by the time you start to meet those career people at your university, the chances are they'll be like, oh yeah, when there's a placement opportunity or an internship opportunity, they will think about you. Right? So you just make sure that you're using those resources, because you are paying for them, your university is paying for them, so make them work for you. I'm going to say this, because I was looking for a lot of graduate roles when I was applying for jobs, and I was very focused on applying for graduate roles, and I got a lot of interviews. But one thing that I really, really did was that my degree was chemical engineering. So essentially I was looking at jobs that said graduate chemical engineer or graduate process engineer. Those terms are used interchangeably, quite similar. So all of a sudden I saw a job that says technical production support. Now, technical production support isn't I was like, am I going to be helping them? What am I? That doesn't sound like anything. That sounds so strange. But then, do you know what ticked in my brain? I was like, people are not going to be applying for this job. I know the company that it was with, because it was a really big company. and it was just kind of like under the radar a little bit. So I was like, okay, let me apply, because I was just like, it wasn't a graduate role either, funny enough. It was just a normal job. So I applied for it, and I know that lots of people weren't applying for it. Again, doesn't mean that there wasn't any competition, but just to give you an example there of where you don't have to fix yourself, as I said earlier, to that specific job title that you're attached to. It's, regardless of what, even if you're studying agriculture, there's going to be so many, you can work in a vet, right? Like, there's so many different industries that transferable skills, essentially what I'm saying, that can't work with each other. So I find that a lot of people end up being so stuck in this bubble of this job title that they want, that they fail to think about all the different other places and industries where their skills are applicable to. So that technical production support job was what I ended up getting. And I looked at the company, sorry, my nose is itchy, I have a flu. Forgive me as well for the way my voice sounds. But that job was what I ended up getting, and it was fantastic because it was exactly what I needed, and it was a job that ended up getting me my sponsorship. So don't close the door. Open it up a little bit, right? Make sure that you're looking at as many different options as possible. So those are the different things that I feel like I did. I was very strategic about what I wanted to achieve. I knew that I wanted the job. I was very intentional about my work experience, and understanding what work experience that I needed. And the reason why that is so important is that when you start to pick your part-time roles, you know exactly what part-time roles will work for that work experience that you ultimately need on your CV. So that was very, very important. And then use resources, ask people, ask your university, ask your friends to review your CV. And actually, so for some reason, I found that when people have people review their CV, like, people get almost like stuck in the way their CV is supposed to look. I find it so fun. I literally tore up my CV, like, when somebody gave me feedback. I changed the entire thing. I made it so pretty before. And she's like, yeah, this is really cute, but you don't have some of the things that you need for this particular job that you applied for. I tore it up. I started again. So don't be so attached to the rejections. Don't be so attached to the way your CV looks. Just be open-minded about that sort of like experience that you want, if that makes sense. Because there's so many different jobs. Even myself now, I'm going to make a video maybe a few months after now, talking about what I now do after having qualified, and chartering and being chartered as an engineer, and just speaking about transferable skills there as well. The one last thing that I did want to say about this video is for people who have a PSW. As I said before, they're incredibly lucky, because that's a 2-year leverage that I didn't have. 2 whole years, that's a really long time. So make sure that you understand the difference between companies that are sponsoring and companies that are not, right? Eventually, you're going to apply to quite a few different ones and you'll be open-minded, but definitely, sometimes when a company doesn't say that they're not sponsoring, you don't need to over-announce yourself, right? But still be open-minded about applying everywhere. Let them be the person to reject you. Let them be the ones to tell you that they're not looking for sponsored people. By the time I got my job, the one that said technical production support, the company wasn't even aware at the time that I needed a visa. I applied, I got the job. Because when I got the offer, I was just like, yeah, sorry, I actually don't have a visa. So like, let me know when you want to start the process. And the HR guy had to go back to the company and say, hey, she doesn't have a visa. And at that point, the company had to make a decision and say, do we want to keep this girl, yes or no? And the answer was yes. Why? Because I spent a lot of that time working on myself, working on my experience to get to that point. So make sure that, if you're on a PSW, for example, which is fantastic, that you use that 2 years, right? Don't be so restricted. Apply for contract jobs, right? Apply for contract jobs, because if you're applying for contract job with a company that has the opportunity to sponsor you, once you get that the contract job, within there you can start, you're already in the organization, so then you can start to see the different ways that you can apply for other jobs within the company that will give you an actual sponsored job. So don't be so close-minded about it. Don't reject yourself before they reject you. Be open-minded. I mean, don't get me wrong, if the job says, please, we don't want people who need sponsorship, sure, don't apply. But again, I find that a lot of people do reject themselves before they reject you. Dissociate yourself from that application process. Spend the time. I know it's hard. It's, we all hate rejection, but just spend the time, apply, and do your best, right? As long as you've done all the other things about getting the experience and strategizing and planning, just apply, okay? And last thing I want to say is that you can spend so much time doing all the stuff about all these different things, but you also need to work on your personality. I genuinely feel like my personality was one of the things that got me my sponsored job. I know, but it really was. When I got there on the day of my, my interview, I was really friendly. I was talking to the people. I was very courteous. I showed up like trying to fix myself up, looking nice, but I was courteous. I had a conversation, and funny enough, me and the HR lady, we were really gisting because she's Northern. And at that point, I understood like the difference between like the North and the South divide in the UK. And we started just, we're just talking and just casually catching up and having a conversation. So yes, in the interview, I really sell, like I know how to speak for myself. And it's important that you also learn these different soft skills. How do you speak for yourself? How do you carry yourself? Practice, right? Open a camera, do your interview in front of your camera, right? And talk confidently, have a personality, say hello, how are you? Know how to have small talk, right? If you see somebody for the first time, say, hey, how are you? Like, have a general I know it's really awkward. I used to be so painfully shy, so it was something that I really had to develop. Even now, I feel like I'm even worse than I used to be then in terms of like this. Like I don't have as much of a nice personality, in my opinion, as I used to do then when I was looking for a job, because I was really working on it. It's like, you need to be impressionable as well. So we can do all of this stuff, but you just go there and be stiff and not say, oh, hey, hi, and just say hi, say, how are you? Oh, how is it working for the company? Have a conversation, be friendly, right? So it's very, very important as well as, all the other work that you're doing around getting the right experience and applying for jobs. Because for me, I could really see it. And when the HR guy that, for my sponsor job told me that, oh yeah, they really liked you. In my mind, I was like, yeah, I know. Because I know the conversations that we had, because I liked them too, right? I know the conversations that we had. I know how we sort of like bonded in the time when I was there. When I was saying bye, I was like, bye, I was so happy. I was so happy. So make sure that you develop a personality, your, what do they call them again? Soft skills, right? So there's all the technical things that you need to do, get it, this and that. But again, it might not be relevant for your job. You might maybe do nursing where you just need to show up and get your job done. But for me, personality really, really made a difference, and I had to learn how to talk, how to have conversations. This has been a really long video, much longer than I actually thought it would be, but hopefully that has helped you. Those are the different things that I feel like really, really helped me. If you take nothing from this video, it is just to make sure that you start at the moment you get into this country. I know that you've just moved into the UK and there's a lot going on, but you're here now. The moment your feet touch the ground, you also need to touch the ground and get up, okay? And start thinking about why you're here, why you want to be here, what it is that you want out of it. And when it comes to applying for jobs, start applying. If you can even start applying from your home country, right? Start applying. I know somebody who was halfway doing their masters, they got a job because they started applying, and the company then sponsored the remaining half of their masters and employed him. Right? So these things are happening for people, and they're not happening because people are lucky. Somebody once told me that, oh, I'm so lucky. And I was just like, babe, you don't know how much how much strategizing I had to strategize. So if you strategize that well, maybe one day someone will also get to call you lucky as well. So start early. It's never too early to start applying for jobs. Even if you've not gotten your visa, but you know you're going to get that visa, start applying for jobs. Okay, do it from your country, do it from where you are, right? And then see things eventually plan out for you. But hopefully this video has been really helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you somewhere in this space sometime soon. I did this video with a flu. You better subscribe. I can't breathe and you want to go without subscribing. Me and you will fight. Subscribe now. I'm going to wait. Have you subscribed? I didn't hear the click. Did you click? Are you sure? Okay, we can be friends now. Bye-bye.